Jade Moreno, a human environmental technician, had been hired to maintain the life support systems on Brontide Station, a remote military outpost orbiting an unknown planet. The station's primary purpose was military training for the feared Zaran species, apex predators known across the galaxy for their ferocity in battle. But Jade hadn't been informed that part of her job description included babysitting 6 juvenile Zarans, who, while they may have been soldiers in training, were still barely older than toddlers in human years. The cubs, as they were called, were fierce and untamed. Jade had learned quickly that they were highly territorial and had instincts designed to hunt, fight, and survive. They weren't accustomed to discipline, much less human concepts like eating with utensils or sitting at a table. At first, they were wild, chaotic, and unmanageable. Their natural instincts were to tear through anything in their path, and they had little interest in the mundane aspects of human civilization. But Jade had a plan. She wasn't just going to maintain the station's systems. She was going to teach these creatures how to function like something other than mindless warriors. On Jade's 10th day, she found herself standing in the station's dining hall, watching as the cubs threw food around, growling at each other in a display of territorial aggression. Rax, the largest and most aggressive of the group, had knocked his plate onto the floor again, sending chunks of synth meat scattering across the floor. His glowing amber eyes narrowed, staring at Jade like a predator waiting to pounce. "Rax," Jade said calmly, her voice stern but composed. "You know better than this. Plates are for food, not the floor." Rax's lip curled, and for a moment, Jade thought he might ignore her, but instead, he slowly turned his head, glancing back at the plate, then at Jade. He was a cub, but the predator in him still ran deep. He had been taught to challenge authority, but for reasons Jade couldn't yet explain, he listened. She bent down and retrieved the plate, carefully placing it back on the table, her eyes never leaving his. "Food stays on the plate," she reiterated. "You understand me?" Rax growled, a low sound vibrating through his chest, but after a moment, he grudgingly nodded, his eyes flicking toward his plate. As Jade moved to distribute the meal, the other cubs began to settle into their seats, though there was still plenty of restlessness in their postures. Astra, the quiet one, sat perfectly still, watching the interaction with a level of curiosity that seemed almost human. Eric's, the hulking cub, was louder and bolder, but had a gentle side Jade had noticed over the days. His eyes followed her every move, seeking approval. Torin, the smallest, ate with an almost frantic pace, gobbling his food as if it might be taken away at any moment. Jade smiled gently as she placed a plate of food in front of Torin. "Slow down, little one. There's plenty of food. No one's taking it from you." Torin paused, his wide eyes staring up at her with a look of confusion mixed with uncertainty. After a moment, he chewed more slowly, his tail flicking nervously. "Good job," Jade praised him, feeling a warm sense of satisfaction that he had taken her words to heart. This was the beginning, teaching them that food wasn't scarce, that they didn't have to fight for every bite. That was the first step toward taming their instincts. Suddenly, the blaring sirens of an emergency alarm cut through the air, sending the cubs into an immediate state of alert. Every muscle tensed as their natural predator instincts kicked in. Their eyes darted around the room, looking for threats. Jade's heart rate spiked, but she forced herself to stay calm. She had dealt with emergencies before. She could handle this. "Stay calm," she ordered firmly, her voice steady despite the rush of adrenaline surging through her. "Everyone stay here. Don't move unless I tell you to." The cubs paused, their bodies still, but their eyes never left the door as the blaring alarm continued. Jade could feel the tension in the room, the air thick with anxiety. She moved to the comm panel on the wall, trying to reach the security system, but the panel flickered and died with a sharp crack. The blast doors to the dining hall suddenly groaned, as though something powerful was attempting to break through. Jade's heart sank as she saw the familiar dark shapes of armed figures moving toward the doors. They weren't soldiers. These were assassins. The moment the doors slid open, Jade stood in front of the cubs, positioning herself between them and the threat. Her voice, though calm, was firm. "Stay where you are. No one gets hurt if they don't try anything stupid. The assassins, 12 in total, stepped into the room, weapons drawn and aimed. Their cold, calculating eyes scanned the room, resting on the cubs before shifting to Jade. Their leader, a tall figure in black tactical armor, stepped forward. "You need to move away from the cubs," he said in a voice that was both commanding and icy. Jade didn't flinch. "I'm not moving," she replied quietly. "And you're not killing them?" The assassin's lips curled slightly, and he made a gesture. "We are here to eliminate the cubs. They are too dangerous to be allowed to mature." The room fell silent. Jade blinked. She understood the Zaren's reputation, but these were children. Children who hadn't even begun to fully develop into the warriors they were destined to be. But to the assassins, they were already threats that needed to be neutralized before they could become a force to reckon with. Jade took a step forward, her hands still steady at her sides. "You're not touching them," she said again, her voice low but strong. The assassin raised his weapon. "Step aside, human. You're out of your league." Just as he aimed his gun at her, Rax stood up, his scales glowing brighter with anger. "Move away from the cubs," Jade repeated, this time more forcefully, her gaze locking onto the assassins. "Or you'll answer to me." There was a tense moment of silence before the assassins moved forward, but then something unexpected happened. Eryx lunged, not with the calculated precision of a soldier, but with the wild ferocity of a cub protecting its pack. He slammed into one assassin, knocking him into a nearby table. The room erupted into action as the other cubs followed suit, springing into motion. Jade barely had time to react as Thrax tossed a chair at another assassin, hitting him squarely in the chest. Jade didn't move. She stayed calm, staying between the cubs and the assassins. "Not like this," she murmured to herself, but she couldn't stop them. The cubs were fighting with every ounce of training they had learned, every ounce of loyalty they felt to her, and in that moment, Jade realized that she wasn't just protecting them, she was fighting with them. The battle was chaotic. Chairs flew, plates were tossed, and the cubs, working together as a team, overwhelmed the assassins one by one. In a matter of minutes, the 12 would-be killers were subdued, not dead, but incapacitated. The cubs stood, panting, their glowing scales dimming as the adrenaline wore off. Jade slowly lowered her hands, her breathing quick but steady. "Good job," she said, her voice breaking the silence. The cubs stood still, looking at her, waiting for her next command. And Jade, the human who had unintentionally become their protector, smiled. "Guess we've learned a lot in 18 days, she said, glancing over at the defeated assassins. "Next time, though, we're finishing dinner first." And as the cubs quietly returned to their seats, Jade knew that something incredible had just happened. They had not only learned to fight, but to fight for each other. In that moment, they were no longer just predators, they were family.